It's your first test, right? So we're all professionals, we can figure it out. The next person that comes in, though, I think we should all just yell, surprise! Because it's very intimidating to walk into a meeting like this. We'll lighten the mood, okay? I'm Beth Geraci. I don't run this meetup group. I'm part of an organization called Agile Auckland. We have an executive committee, and the team is really dedicated to the Agile community here in Auckland. And you'll see by our speaker list this year, we have some really awesome speakers. And I'm very, very happy to be starting off with Team Liftoff. We'll get to them in a minute. So, who's looking for a job? Is anyone looking for a job? Look, it's a safe space, right? What happens here stays here, but if your boss is here, we'll talk later. So, is anybody hiring, looking for Agile professionals? Okay, ANZ, where I work, is looking for cloud professionals. You can look it up. I don't know what that means. No. We are a big cloud initiative, I think, as most of the banks, and there's a lot of regulatory things going on, so we will be hiring furiously. So if you are looking for a job, just check out our website, okay? We try to start these meetings. This is a mix and mingle. This is your community. We're here for you, so you should try to make the most of it, right? That's my little spiel for that. So, all right, we'll get the party started. We do have some sponsors. Fraedom just happens to be one of our sponsors with our Basics at Breakfast initiative. They are a sponsor, an in-kind sponsor. They host monthly Basics at Breakfast meetups for emerging Scrum Masters and people that want to really get better at that craft. So that's monthly Thursdays after our meetup. It's going to be starting in February. I'll announce it again at the end. And then Searle, our partnership with AUT and Searle, Jim Buchan is on our committee. He's really our eyes and ears to the research arm of Agile, and what his group does is amazing, and hopefully we're going to be publishing some of their white papers. So that's something to look forward to this year, right? Just learning what other companies are doing and all around Auckland for sure and the world. So that's exciting. Okay, so restrooms, they're on that wall, so you can go out that door or this door, and they're there. You won't be able to get back in the store, sorry. Or they're across the cafe. So that's the restrooms. The fire exits, the little green running man tells us to run, but we're going to walk calmly together if anything happens. And we'll meet, I think the egress is across the street. Just go to that nice apartment complex. They might let you in. There's a nice pool and workout room. All right. The timing is going to be the talk. We're going to start this off. It'll be about 45 minutes. And then there's plenty of time for Q&A. So we definitely encourage some participation. I know Ziggy and Chris won't mind. They're coaches, so they're used to being interrupted all the time, so it's fine. So now I would like to introduce Ziggy and Chris. So Ziggy Heron and Chris Lennon, they are with Fraedom. They are Kaizen coaches. Their program that they've created there is extraordinary, what they're doing with the teams and how much they've improved, right, this program. So they're going to share their Team Liftoff program with us. Can we welcome you, Chris? One of you has to take it.
We're just arguing about who has the clicker. Chris gets it because he's a grown-up. I'm not. I'm Ziggy. I am one of the Kaizen coaches at Fraedom. You may be wondering, what the hell is a Kaizen coach? Well, we are Scrum Masters, we're facilitators. Some of us work with Kanban, like Chris. Some of us work in Scrum, like me. So we didn't really want to call ourselves Scrum Masters or Agile coaches, because the major thing that we do is look at process improvements at Fraedom and try and make us the best company we can be and help our teams become the best that they can be. I've only been with Fraedom for 8 months, so I'm still like wandering around trying to work out how everything goes. Chris has been there for a lot longer. So yeah, do you want to introduce yourself, Chris?
Yeah, sure. So yes, I've been at Fraedom 8 years, different positions. Started off in the data, services, global customer operations, and then moved from there to what I'm doing now, I came to Agile, like a lot of us, through software development. So ex-geek, software development, developer, there's probably a few ex-COBOL, ex-sort of COBOL programmers amongst us, and software development manager, and then came across Agile via extreme programming maybe 20 years ago, and the Agile Manifesto, just there it is online, read it, and it seemed kind of subversive and a little bit anti-establishment, which appealed to me as well, so I sort of really embraced it with a whole lot of enthusiasm, very little knowledge at all, but I kind of got it. I remember one time I was over in Australia, I was talking with a kind of a traditional company with a traditional development manager, and I was ranting away about this new approach and how we need to be agile and adaptive and just kind of went for it, and then there was this pause, I sort of looked at her pause and just said two words, oh dear. So it gives you a sort of an impression for those times. So I've been doing this for a job for the last 4 years, first in our delivery teams as a Scrum Master, and lately with platform engineering, which is the more operational side of life, doing Kanban, and enjoying it, and enjoying being part of programs like this, Team Liftoff. Anything you want to say about yourself, Ziggy?
I, to my embarrassment, started off in project management. and I spent years working on projects that didn't work, and then I discovered Agile and Scrum, and we started doing projects, and they started working, we started delivering things. So I've carried on doing it. I've been doing it for about eight or so years now, something like that.
We did a Kanban course together. We got some feedback that we have contrasting styles. I don't know quite what that means, but we definitely have contrasting accents. So hopefully you'll enjoy the difference, the more refined accent and the more basic accent. I'll let you
He's talking about me.
We'll let you work out which is which. So in terms of context, we want to take you through the program, absolutely, and we will do that. We've got some handouts, some actual booklets, if you like, some books that we'll give out at the end, so you'll be able to take the stuff away with you. I'm really excited to do that. We want to give some context around that. Before we do it, part of context really is where does this come from? So Fraedom, and it's also a really great story. Fraedom 1999, a couple of Kiwis came out of Deloitte's. At that time there was a lot of sort of accounting firms looking at what were their core business and what wasn't. It was around the Enron time when companies were kind of made to, accounting companies were made to look at that, and software and auditing was seen to be a conflict of interest, so something had to go. Obviously Deloitte stuck with their core. And the software side was my P card at the time, my purchasing card. Legend has it that they stole the Deloitte's photocopier and got going. Since we've been acquired by Visa, I hear that legend less often, so it may or may not be true. But they certainly started off sort of on the wing and the prayer, and the sales guys used to ask an important question before they did sales meetings, which was, do you have the internet? So that was dial-up and all that stuff. Then we were lucky to get some really great clients on board right from the get-go. So companies like Fonterra, BNZ, which gave the company a boost. Visa was big, 2009, so we powered the software that Visa supplied to their banks. So it's branded, white labeled, etc. So that was really huge, 2009. Becoming Fraedom was a big moment as well. We say Fraedom, some people say Fraedom. It's all good, it's fine. Then Visa acquisition happened last year, and that again was just another step on the journey really, and it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. And that's the background of Fraedom.
Yeah, so a lot of people haven't heard of Fraedom, but we've got a lot of, as you can see, quite big partners. The reason that a lot of people haven't heard of us is we tend to white label our work. So if you've got an account with ANZ or BNZ, they use our stuff, but it's all white labelled as ANZ or BNZ. Another bit of context, when I started 8 months ago, I was employee number 301, and I arrived on my first day and they had a big party, and it was very intimidating. But it had taken Fraedom 20 years to get to 300, and in the last 8 months I think we're up to 400 and plus. So we really are sort of ramping up the amount of teams that we're having to turn up and start up, which led to this program. We wanted a way of getting teams up and running, and this is why we came up with this program. So,
Slides out of order, that's okay. The model that that I've come up with to explain this is layers of coaching. So some of us are sort of big picture people, and we can't sort of get into the detail until we see the big picture. We feel a bit claustrophobic. So this is a model I've used to help people like that. I'm a little bit like that myself. In the spirit of all models are wrong, some are helpful. So when I think of coaching, I think of 3 layers. One is the individual layers, which are those stick figures there. I have a growth mindset when it comes to drawing. But individual coaching, or professional coaching, as Lisa Atkins calls it, is really a sort of a field in itself. Then there's coaching at that team level. That's very much where Ziggy and I are at, just team, and probably a lot of us here. And then you have, I've drawn 3 teams, but maybe there's 30 or 300 or whatever number. And how do those teams click together? So there's that enterprise agile coaching, although that term enterprise agile coach seems to be falling out of fashion maybe a little bit, but let's see where that goes. Nexus, Safe, all of that stuff. That area is quite profitable, so I hear, but it's not the area we're operating in at the moment. It's at that team level. The advantage of working at the team level is you really kind of get both. So we have individuals maybe who aren't, they're just a bit frustrated. It's not quite clicking into the team. If you bring those individuals into a high-performing team that's having fun, a team that's enjoying themselves, it's amazing just to see the transformation. Nothing trumps, very few things will trump team culture. That's how we do things around here. You come into that environment and just lift individuals. Also, a team that's really getting it, that's cranking, will be work well with other teams. They won't just accept impediments, but they won't, break or bust the impediments in a way that breaks relationships. So they'll just calmly kind of go through, but they won't accept just being stopped by X, Y, Z process. So there's some real advantages there in terms of coaching at that team level. Team chartering versus project chartering. This was a massive learning that we had along the way. So I don't know who's seen the Boost. Anyone seen the Boost project kickoff booklet? Boost are a Wellington company, and I'd recommend it. It's a brilliant booklet on project chartering, project kickoffs, feature kickoffs, and then at the end, they have a section on the team building side of it, which is a lot of how it's done. For us, we've decoupled them, and it makes more sense to us to do a team liftoff, which focuses on the team, regardless of what project the team's doing. It's team focused versus projects, regardless of what the team is. So that was a big sort of mindset shift for us as we went into this process. Team liftoff, per team, feature kickoff, or we do some more, traditional infrastructures type projects, or we do project chartering. Team liftoff, quite mature, so we'll be giving away booklets and things today, so reasonably mature at Fraedom. Feature kickoff, project chartering, not so much. That's my sort of take in terms of the industry. I think that's maybe reasonably common. What exactly is a project chartering, and should we even have projects, and all of that is sort of less mature. But we are going on that journey now, and if Beth ever lets us back, maybe we'll have something to say on that score. So that's a journey going on.
Right, so what is a team liftoff? What we want to do on a team liftoff is invest in the teams themselves. We see it as an investment. We've taken them out of their work for a day, and we're going to do a workshop with them. And what we want to do is go through the rules that they're going to operate by. We are going to look at their roles and responsibilities, how they deal with conflict, all the kind of roadmap things that this team's going to operate by. And the reason we do that is basically Tuckman. This is a science bit. Bruce Tuckman back in 1965 came up with this model of how teams grow and develop. And it's been fairly stable. It's been kicking around since 65. It hasn't changed much. The idea of our team liftoff is we're hoping to get teams from the initial point and try to get them into this performance zone as quickly as possible. In the forming stages, it's a bit like a little toddler. They just want acceptance. They never question their parents, and everyone just wants to be inclusive and cuddly. When they get to the Stallman phase, this is where they become like a petulant teenager. there's lots of door slamming, banging on tables, there's lots of conflict and issues arise. Then you get to the Norman stage where they're more like young adults, and they're starting to learn how to work together and get better at working as a team. And then finally there's the performance stage, and this is like the gold standard. This is where everyone knows how to work, they know everyone's strengths and weaknesses, and things just purr along. The two problems that teams we've found is that they can get stuck in this storming phase. You can't get into the Norman phase. And part of that could be that there's issues with the teams. It could be that sometimes they're just too busy to sit back and think, how can we work better? So we came up with the team Liftoff as a way of trying to accelerate that into the Norman stage. And through the series of facilitated, how do you put this, activities, we're hoping to accelerate that process. So what we're going to do today is take you through these exercises that we do with the teams, try and explain why we do them, and hopefully it's something that you might be able to take away and use yourself. So yeah, have you got anything?
Cool. No, nothing to add there. So we'll go back. Apologies for the out of order. So how this came about was an improvement initiative. We called it Back to Basics. Some of you will know Gareth Holbrook, who used to be our Agile practice, Kaizen practice lead. He had a phrase, brilliant at the basics. So this was really brilliant at the basics, the stand-ups, the refinements, all of that we looked at, and there was a clear need for a kick-off, a lift-off program for the team. So that came out of that improvement initiative, maybe started about a year ago. And this slide shows all the various things that were considered. You can see decision making there. We got product owners and Kaizen coaches together. We threw every idea we had about team chartering on the table, literally, because the Butcher's paper was on the table. Grouped them up. It was fascinating to see the sort of mental image people had around what was team chartering. We ended up calling it Team Liftoff. We like the rocket imagery. In fact, when I do a start for this, I'll talk about teams. When you're a rocket is on the launch pad and there's a lot of smoke, but nothing's happening, then just gradually the rocket starts to lift. You need all that momentum. Or you may be sailing, and I'm lucky enough to have done a few of these, mainly with teams that I don't know. So whether they're a high-performing team, medium, I genuinely don't know, so I can't really offend them. So you might be just about to break the atmosphere and you still just need that boost. So either way, with a team sort of on that journey towards high performance, whatever that looks like, and there can be different perspectives on that, or sort of at the launch pad, you get a boost. So the rocket imagery works, and also there's an activity, team chartering, which is a set of, I guess, a working agreement, a set of principles, guidelines, whatever. You guys will be pretty familiar with it. That's called team chartering, but if we call the day team chartering, it just causes a little bit of confusion as to what that is. So team chartering or team working agreement is part of this day, which is the team Liftoff. We are pretty proud of it, I guess you could say. Like, not all improvement initiatives work, as I said, but this one has gone the distance. We sent it to the marketing guys in London, made all kinds of little squiggly graphics and made it look really good. The analogy I use is a recipe. If you taste a really amazing dessert, and then you say, well, what's in there? It's like, it's milk, it's nutmeg. The ingredients are pretty conventional, but the way they're put together is what makes the magic. And through doing these, inspecting, adapting, the usual things you do, all the sort of debriefing we did afterwards, why didn't that work, etc. Through that, the way that the exercises sort of come together, the activities come together is sort of what makes it powerful. There's nothing in here that is, I guess, completely new, like some amazing new revolutionary thing we've designed. You will have probably heard of a lot of these exercises, activities that we do. Not just Siggy and I, obviously. It builds on a lot of work that Fraedom has done. Some Fraedomites here, ex-Fraedomites. And so a lot of stuff here is being done way before practice disciplines kicked around. So we'll copy off each other, I suppose, is the way this industry works. Cool. Preparation. So as coaches, the preparation is key. We know this. So what does preparing for a team Liftoff look like? Well, for us, there's really four things. One is the day itself. So the agenda is from 9 till 3. It is a full day, and there is that investment, and probably your organisations are similar to ours. There's that constant pressure to deliver, hands on keyboards, and this really sort of takes a stance and says, well, let's, there will always be work to do. Let's take a step back and let's get the team humming, or at least take a step in that direction, because how much time do we lose through lack of communication, lack of clarity? You know, I'm just so big on clarity. Part of our jobs really is helping teams create their own clarity. You know, what is the cost of that lack of clarity versus a day? So we don't apologise for the fact it's a full day, and we look at it as an investment. You know, it's a cost. Work's not being done in terms of keyboard work, but it's still work. So it is a day, 9 till 3. If you're an early bird, you can get some work done beforehand, get some work done afterwards, so it doesn't take that whole day. In terms of the team, who to invite, invite the team, obviously. Who is the team? Sometimes that's less clear than we want. As coaches, you might have an architect that works for a couple of teams. You know, are they part of the team? Are they not part of the team? Technical communicator. So it can be a little bit fuzzy. Really only you as a facilitator will know who to invite. You can't invite everyone. I always kind of think line ball is in, so it's kind of like, should we invite, should we not? I'd always err on the side of inviting them because they're a part of it then. But like I say, it's just up to you as a facilitator how wide you cast that net. Space, really more is more with the space. If you look at that picture there, Laura is standing on the left there. There's a sort of a white cord. That is a cord going down. It's not a power cord. No one was injured during this, but that was because we were moving down to level 5 to take level 5 of the current office building. And that was never supposed to be a proper space. It wasn't developed. It wasn't bookable. It was pretty rough and ready, but it was light and it was open and it was airy. And as soon as we saw it as coaches, we just made an absolute beeline. We developed an impromptu booking system, which is this piece of paper saying, I've got it on this date. Because, yeah, it was a little bit rough, but compare that to, say, a room, you know, with a big table in the middle, and everyone just sits down and they go into meeting mode, you know, where you shut off the best part of your brain, you just keep it on life support so you can sort of answer any question anyone asks you, and you've straight away lost a lot of energy. So if it's at all possible, just get a really nice, light, open space. Snacks we've done with and without snacks. Snacks work better. We're all humans, and we've all got that sort of brain energy. I mean, there is something about sort of having food there that just creates that sense of hospitality. So definitely, you know, $50 and countdown is just well worth it. The blue bowl there isn't for snacks, but that's a little technique you can use in anything that we've found quite powerful, which is as people arrive, get them to write something about themselves that other members of the team wouldn't necessarily know. It gets harder as you do more of these, but just a little fun fact about yourself. What's a fun fact? You know, put it in the bowl, and then as the full team is there, pull them out and try to guess, and that can be quite funny. You know, so-and-so's going on a date and da-di-da. So it really serves as an icebreaker, and it also covers that sort of awkward time before the meeting starts when people are inevitably a little bit late, and it's kind of like, what do you do? It's a little bit late, people go on their phones, and again, it's low energy. But this is a way of just breaking that ice. Oh, I'll just write something on a post-it note, and it can be sort of 10 past, and you wouldn't necessarily know, so it sort of covers that sort of awkward low energy stage. So yeah, preparation. Key, and in some ways the best way of being prepared is to have something like this. So I really encourage, you know, any organisation to have something like this available. Another good example is we're going to do a team Liftoff actually with our HR, our people and experience departments, so I'm attest to this. And Gareth was going to do it, our practice lead. He called Anusha at 5 p.m. that day sick. The Liftoff was the next day, the team charter was the next day, and we actually had an early morning event. So we literally had no time to prepare, and without sort of this available, you just move it, which you could always move it, but then you could move it again and da-di-da. So we went ahead, and I remember Anusha at one point actually had the manual there, and she was reading it, you know, as she went. So the power of having something, you can always adapt it and change it. It's not set in concrete, but yeah, the power of having something like that available is pretty key. And so the day itself kicks off.
Yeah, so the first event that we do with the team is get the product owner, product manager to come in and do a little presentation to the team. We've got the big, hairy, audacious goal up there. We set aside 15 minutes for the product owner or the product manager to come in and tell the team the vision. This is what we want the team to achieve. The vision is also the journey, but it's also the destination and what it looks like when they get there. It needs to be able to fill the team with inspiration. It needs to paint a picture for the team so they know what they're being set up to deliver. We had, the first time we ran this, we got the product owner in and said, right, we want you to deliver the product vision, and he turned around and just basically went through the whole release plan for the next 6 months, and it was just dire. After that, we spent a bit of time sitting down with the product owner, trying to explain to them, look, we want you to fire up the team. We want you to make them into missionaries, not mercenaries. We don't want code monkeys. We want people to really be on board with what we're trying to do, try to deliver, and that's value to the customer. So this part, it's only 15 minutes, but we get the product owner in and we sit down and coach them about what we want them to do. Like I said, we've got a lot of partners at Fraedom, and our partners have different demands on us, and it's the product owner there to explain why our partners want this piece of software, or they want this development, and get the team on board. That's basically the first part of the day. Just get the team fired up about what they're going to be building over the next 6 months to a year.
And that really anchors the day from a work point of view. You know, the team are there to produce a result and have fun along the way doing it. But that sort of anchors the day, so it doesn't sort of drift off too far, I guess. It's like we're all here to do a job, to produce some great software, if that's, you know, the industry you're in, and that sort of anchors it. The first interactive exercise we do is a team purpose exercise, and it makes sense to do this because, you know, it sets a purpose for the day. So the team purpose is done in 3 rounds, and that's really a big part of this, the design of this day. It uses, some of you will have heard of liberating structures. I'm not an expert on that by any means, but one of the things we took out of liberating structure was doing things in rounds. So you do first round maybe with 8 people, and then, you know, a fewer number, and each round would build on each other. We mix it up a bit, and in fact in this view the first round is individuals, and then go to the higher size rather than the other way around. But it's almost like a filter. You've got that coarse grain filter, and then the mid, and then the fine grain. So we do this in 3 rounds, and we use a superhero theme because why not? And we do the first round is, if you were a superhero, who would you be? So the classic example, if I was a superhero, I'd be the Hulk because I crush bugs. From Tester, you can see there's Electra, you know, I can read the future. And this sort of sets the tone, and it allows people to speak about themselves. So it's that first sort of getting people to talk, even if you're a little bit shy. You know, everyone has a go. It's creative, so we have the writing materials there. So it sort of sets that creative tone for the day. And then everyone comes up and introduces themselves as a superhero. First round. The second round is where we bring all the superheroes together. So there's some nice imagery around, you know, we have our superheroes. It's time for the Avengers to assemble. The end goal being to create a really meaningful purpose statement. What I normally do is I read the Avengers mission statement. That is really cool. You know, there came a day unlike any other. I won't go into the rest of it, but I sort of ham it up because it's being a bit vulnerable, and you know, you show that sort of vulnerable side of you, and then the team will respond to that and give a little bit of vulnerability as well. So we need to assemble our superheroes, and then we do form into 2s or 3s depending on the size of the group, and just come up with that mission statement. That's on the way to creating the final team mission statement. And the reason we don't go straight into that is, I don't know who's had the experience, I haven't. I wouldn't sort of want to get a team cold up to a whiteboard and say, what's your purpose? You know, it's pretty tough. So people really need a chance to have a bit of a go. So what we say is diverge. So we use the diverge, converge sort of model. So diverge in terms of your thinking, you know, come up with a crazy mission statement, just blow us all out of the water. In fact, we haven't really had teams go as far as what might be quite fun or quite interesting, but that's the sort of direction, just really diverge in your thinking, have a bit of a go. It's not the final thing, you've got nothing to lose, so come up with that is round number 2. Round number 3 is at the whiteboard, come up with a mission statement. So here's one part of the data science team, provide cutting-edge artificial intelligence products and services to Fraedom. And so that's for a dedicated team with a dedicated purpose. The next thing here is interesting because they do a wide variety of work. So they didn't have that sort of content specialization. So if you read it, protected by courage, we deliver our vision while having fun. I mean, that really could apply to any team. But there was something about that team that kind of needed that courage, the courage to sort of speak up, if you like, and fun was just a big part of that team. So it really doesn't matter if it's a technology team or an HR team, whatever. All teams need a purpose. So in terms of running that exercise and tips, it has always worked. So we've always got a really cool mission statement out of it. One that's not up here is from our site reliability engineering team, which is protecting our brand by always moving forward fast, positively. And there's that whole operational, roll forward sort of a thing, combined with just be positive. That's a pressurized area, when you're responsible for the whole platform. So we always have got a result. So trust the process, trust the team, time box it. So definitely a time box as your friend, and don't overthink it. Is some tips. The final one being that third round is really about converging and assembling the information. It's not about diverging. And that can be a bit of a trap. Sometimes someone will say something that sparks someone else and you're off on this whole different save the world type mission statement thing. And teams can spend 2 or 3 days at some sort of strategy workshop coming up with this stuff. This is just, it's not that time boxed, focused, and you can always change it, write it up there, mission statement. And we've always got a result. So sometimes it can be a bit, are we going to get there? But it's funny, it just always seems to just come together when it needs to come together. Cool, the river of life.
Yeah, so one of the things we want to get the teams doing is have trust in and of each other. The reason we want that trust is if you don't have trust, you get less collaboration, you get less innovation, you get less productivity, there's less creative thinking, people just pull into themselves. So we want to get trust into the teams. Now in psychology, one of the things that you can do to elicit trust is something called reciprocal self-disclosure. It's a posh way of saying, I tell you something, you share something with me. So we use this event called the River of Life. Now, in full candour, when I heard about this, I thought it was a bit too hippy-dippy, holding hands, singing Kumbaya. But then I tried it, and it was actually a really good event, and it worked really well. For those of you not familiar with this, what you do is you get the team together, and you say, right, I want you to imagine your life story as a river. So where did the river start? Where did it go? Did it diverge? Were there bits where it went faster or slowed down to a trickle? Were there waterfalls? Was there places where it diverged? And the idea is that they get the pens and pencils, you use pictures, and they draw their life story. You do have to remind them, only draw things that you're happy sharing with the group, because we've had a few incidences where that got a bit uncomfortable. But they draw their life stories, and what we do is we just get them up, get them to the board, put it up there, and ask them to go through their life story. So they explain where they come from, where they go, and what their hopes and dreams are. Now, I don't know about you, but where we work at Fraedom, it's like the United Nations. It's we got people from all over the world, and what we found with the teams is it's fantastic when they come from other countries or other places, and they share their stories, and it's been a great experience. There's been some really sad bits, there's been some really funny bits, and most of the teams that we've done this with, even though I thought it was a bit hippy-dippy kumbaya, they've all gone away and said this was one of their favourite parts of the day. But again, the main thing we're trying to do here is get people to be open and honest about their lives, share their experiences, and it helps develop that trust using reciprocal self-disclosure. I think it's, like I say, you get them to draw, or you can print out pictures for them, and you give them 15-20 minutes to do that, and then get them to stand up and tell everyone about their life stories. So that's River of Life.
Yeah, I would echo that. We did that as a team of guys and coaches, and it was quite amazing to see the trust that was generated. We shared probably pretty deeply. Teams are all different. We'd known each other for quite a while. Some of us anyway go back quite a long way, so we did share pretty deeply. So there's a lot of trust that develops through being vulnerable, sharing your story, and really for me it was you might not align with someone. We all have different opinions and all the rest of it. So your opinions may not align, but it's kind of like I get the way that person sees things that way because of their story, and we're all trying to do the best we can with our own opinions, we're all right in our own minds, you know, and we really get to see the context, I guess. So that is a really powerful exercise. In some ways, maybe at the heart of the team Liftoff. Then after that, yep.
So if the river of life, and it's a bit too hippy-dippy for you, there's another exercise we do called Marketplace of Skills, which does a similar thing. So again, we ask people to write down the relevant skills that they've got, the stuff that they were employed for, and that goes on top of the market stall. And then we actually ask them to tell us about their hidden skills. This could be hobbies, pastimes, that could be double jointed, whatever. And they share their hidden skills. Sometimes it's from previous jobs and careers that they've had. We then ask them what they'd like to learn. So again, we're finding out a little bit more about the person. And I found this, when I did this exercise, particularly useful, because I said I'd like to learn to sail. And now I'm sailing out of a beautiful yacht out there in the viaduct, so this exercise I could definitely recommend. And then finally, life goal. So again, we're getting people to say where they want to be and stuff like that. So again, it's just about people sharing, finding out a little bit more about each other, and it's less kumbaya. That's Marketplace of Skills. So it's another event we can also do.
After River of Life or Marketplace of Skills, if you do it that way, sometimes we take a break. I can't remember on the agenda with lunches, but obviously you play it by ear as the day goes by. Roles and responsibilities, it's a massive sort of gear change, and I quite enjoy that. I sort of play with that a little bit. So we've had the sharing and the vulnerability, and now it's about the job you're doing and the expectations other people have of you doing that job. So it really encompasses the both, but the trust foundation is there. And now we click the roles and responsibilities. We've probably learned the most, I guess, from this exercise in the sense of the first ones. We provided the posters and the framework, but not a lot of guidance, and we really found teams were almost floundering, and it was sort of an awkward time with the teams sort of looking at you to guide them, and we're kind of like, well, we can't tell you what your jobs are, and you get through it, but we sort of regrouped and said, okay, we're going to need a little bit more structure here, because although in theory it's clear, you're a tester or whatever, we work in a complex industry, it's not sometimes that clear. So this exercise again is a really key one. I normally introduce it with the analogy of who's ever seen a bunch of 5-year-olds playing soccer, and we get the same answer every time, which is they like a little bit of bumblebees, all sort of just following the ball. None of them have got a position. Then as the team matures, some goes out on the wings, some will go to goalie, and they'll learn how to use positions. And then I don't always say this, but depending on where the team is at, contrast that with, say, an FA Cup team, and the defender comes in and scores a goal, and that always gives me goosebumps, because it's not actually the defender's role to score the goal. So he's playing out of position. And as a team gets higher performing, what you'll find is people come out of their positions more and start sort of playing a bit cross position. But that's high performing teams, and that's an FA Cup team, whereas the team you're doing a Liftoff for isn't necessarily an FA Cup team. So it's putting that sort of diplomatically, I guess, but basically saying whatever level you're at, pretty helpful to understand the roles that are in the team. And even as a high-performing team, when that pressure comes on, good to have a role that you can just fall back on, have a bit of a think, and then you can sort of go cross-team a little bit more. So this one again, in that sort of liberating structure, is done in 3 rounds. The first round is, well, we have the roles around the room. So if we were doing it in this room, we'd have a poster around here. Actually, before we sort of get right into it, we just give a little bit of reassurance. This isn't your job description. This is not your remuneration or anything scary. So the last thing we want is sort of HR tie-in type stuff. This is and Simon is my HR person. This is about the hat you wear. So it's a role as a hat. So we all wear hats. We all do jobs. So when I'm a tester, I have to test the hat on. What am I doing when I have that test the hat on? So roles as hats is a sort of an interesting one. I could talk more about it, but I might say it for a blog or something like that. It's useful for this purpose, basically. So we say roles as hats, and we put posters around the room. Then people go in their role. So if there's 3 developers, a tester, whatever that is. So you go around and you put sticky notes into what are your expectations of that role. So we've got Kaizen coach here, Scrum Master. what is the team's expectation out of a Scrum Master? What do you want the Scrum Master to do? So if you go around and there's no sticky notes on Scrum Master, you've earned yourself a holiday. But no expectations, right? So you can't do anything wrong. It's really about that conversation. If the team literally have no expectations out of the Scrum Master, then what's the point of a Scrum Master? So it's to generate those conversations and really helpful actually as a facilitator to understand the team's expectations. So we go first round, which is sticky note, what are expectations? The second round is as a group, so the whole group will move around the room. We get the role holder to facilitate, it's their role, they're the expert. And so go through an exercise, yes, this is part of my role, no, this is not part of my role. And that's a discussion exercise, and that's the crux of it, looking for mismatches. What are the gaps of expectations? One quick example would be a tester, and one of the expectations the developer has was the maintenance of a quality test development server environment. And the tester said, look, I don't look after that environment, you'll be waiting a long time if you're waiting for me to sort it out because I use it the same as you. And then that leads to another conversation, who does own that environment? And so there's a mismatch there, and as you go along, all these little mismatches, you start to sort of iron them out. Third round is where, you'll see this in some of the examples we have, people write their own job descriptions or write their own hats, so it puts it all together, and you come up with a little card, as a tester, so you're actually writing your own role description and put them all there. Sometimes it's actually literally giving me goosebumps, I suppose because I geek out on this sort of stuff, but when you think, gosh, what a team, if you've got the tester doing this, the developers are doing this, product owners setting the vision, it's just a beautiful thing. But it comes out of that discussion. It takes time, so this is probably the longest exercise. You can't really shortcut it. This is people's jobs, it's what we do day to day, it's important to us, so you can't really shortcut it. You just got to allow the time for the conversations there.
We found this especially important because there's a lot of conflict arises in teams. That's not my job, you should be doing that kind of thing. So this exercise is really important in establishing those ground rules. I'm a tester, but I'm not in charge of quality. That's the team's responsibility, and it's thrashing out these parts of the rules that some people might just assume that's your part of your job, but it's not. So we spend a lot of time doing this because if people understand what each other do for a job, things run a lot more smoothly. So the next thing we do is come up with a team charter. Now, a team charter is just the kind of the rules of the road for the team. It's how they're going to operate. It's their North Star. It's how they operate. It's the culture of the team. Now, if you turn up and have a session with the team and say, right guys, we're going to do a team charter, what's really important to you? Number one, you just get tumbleweeds, crickets, nobody knows what to do. So what we did is we developed an exercise called Good Team, Bad Team. So what we do is we get a little poster, put it up and say, right, I want all of you to think about the worst team possible. It could have been somewhere that you used to work, because everyone's happy at Fraedom. Or it could be your own imagination. And what we do is we set up different areas that we're interested in, things like quality, technical growth, success, collaboration, conflict, and we get them to just write out anything they want. All the bad behaviours, all the terrible attitudes, everything, just get it up there. What we found is it's really easy for people to think negative things. It's harder for them to think positive things that they want to do. So we get them to do this and they have fun. There's one guy, he's a Russian chap that works with us, his name's Boris, that's not a joke, he really is called Boris. And he just threw tons and tons of sticky notes up. And I have to ask him, have you got a good imagination, or have you had terrible experiences? And he was like, I worked in Russia. Terrible people. Now I live in New Zealand. And he had some really shocking stuff. But anyway, they are fun. They throw up a load of bad ideas. And then what we do is we whip down, if you hit the next one, we whip down the poster and say, right, we want to stop, we don't want these behaviours, so what do we do in a concrete way to stop them? So then the teams hit the whiteboard again and start coming up with ideas for how they can have better meetings, how they're going to resolve conflict, how they're going to collaborate together, how they're going to improve the tech approach. And the teams are actually developing all this stuff and they're coming up with it, and it's really organic. You're not having to facilitate anything, they end up doing it themselves. And again, what we then do is, you probably see it on there, we do lots of dot voting. So we get the guys to dot vote on what their most important things are, because when we do the team charter, you can go nuts on it and have it like a massive, ridiculous document. If you look at strum.org, they have their team charter, and it goes on for pages and pages and pages. I think it's best if your team charter is short, sweet, memorable, and it's the core values that this team want to have. So you want to make it short and pithy. And again, what you do with your charter is everyone's involved. You're making their rules, their culture visible to everyone, and it's what's important to this team. Some organisations I've worked at, they've got like a standard kind of ground rules that they give to teams. I'm very much against that, because you need to get the teams to buy into it. Again, that's processes over people and interactions. So we try and get the team to come up with them. And we've had great success with this. If you walk around Fraedom, you see lots of them. So this is an example. How we work, meetings, no devices, because we want them to focus on the content of the meeting. They're going to show up on time, and if they're not, they're going to slack us and let us know. Respect each other, always. Stay focused, always have an agenda and action points, because we hate turning up to meetings where we go, what did we decide? And don't interrupt. This is an interesting one, use English in the pods. Now this team had issues in the past where people were talking in their native language, made some of the others uncomfortable because they didn't know what the conversation was about. So they actually put it into their team thing that they were in the pods when they were working, they would all speak in English. When they were going out for coffee, it's fine, but when they were working, it was in English. How to resolve conflicts, and quality. You know, we're going to follow our standards. We're going to bring issues to the retros. We're going to do definitions are done, definitions are ready. And this is it, and it's up in their area, and they refer to it all the time. So if there is issues, it's like, hey, we agreed that we wouldn't do this. Yeah, so that's the team charter. What we try to do with all these different exercises is bring it all together in something we call the team canvas. So if you have a look at this one for data sciences, there's the working agreement, the team purpose. Underneath we've got the roles with those little mini job descriptions. And with this goes up in the area that they work in. So they see it all the time, and it's a document that they can keep coming back to. And if anyone new joins the team, it's all there. This is how we work. This is what's important to us. This is what we expect of you in this role. The team canvas isn't set in stone though, so we always recommend that people revisit it, maybe in a retro, and challenge it if it's not right. I had one team, for example, that had a headphones rule. Got headphones on, I'm in the zone, I don't want to be disturbed. But what we found is everyone in the team had their headphones on the whole time listening to Spotify, so you couldn't speak to anyone. So again, we went back to the charter and we removed that rule because it wasn't working for the group. This is another example for Team Thanos. Again, it's the superhero thing that we touched on earlier. And at the top there, we've got their reason for being. We want to be a high-performing fun team, leading Fraedom to front-end spaces. We'll be a card management experience as powerful as Thanos' click. I don't know whether you're as geeky as him with the Avengers, but apparently that's a very bad thing. So anyway, but you can see on there they've got who's in the team, what they do, their working agreement, and also their agenda. So anyone rocking up can say, why is there nobody here? Oh, they're all at team coffees, or they're doing their reviews. It's all there on the canvas. Yeah, I think that's that. Oh, I've just zoomed in. Very well. This is another one for the cloud team. Again, they've got their team purpose here about bringing Fraedom, putting us on the cloud, and again, how they work, the working agreement, and they've got some really cool job descriptions. Didn't do a very good picture, but these are really detailed and really good because they're very intense people. And they really care passionately about what they do. But they've got some brilliant job descriptions there. So again, anyone joining that team is going to have exact expectations about what this team does, what these roles do. So that's the team canvas. So it kind of brings everything together that they do during the day. And like I say, if you walk around Fraedom now, they're everywhere. Even for teams that have been working together for years, because they actually thought, you know what, maybe we do need a working agreement. Maybe we do need a way of resolving conflicts ourselves and, rather than sulking for days on end. So yeah, that's the team canvas.
Yeah, what we'll generally do at the start of the day is put it up blank, obviously, so the team name and the spaces, so it sort of visually anchors the day, and it's that sense of satisfaction. You come out with something that's that tangible reminder of the day.
The other thing I would say about canvases as well, that's how we do it here. I've done team canvases at other places I work, and we've had things on it like Myers-Briggs as well. We've thrown that on there. It's just whatever you do with your activities about getting the teams to know each other, you just throw it on the canvas as well. PKIs, all that kind of thing. So yeah, have fun with the canvas.
So that's all the activities. I will pick up on something, Ziggy, you said about easy to facilitate. So that's part of this, and really anything you design for your organisations, it works so much better if it's easy to facilitate. If it requires a rockstar facilitator, you're always going to be constrained by rockstar facilitators. So I sort of have the saying, make the team do the work. It's ultimately the team's results, if you like. The team are accountable for that. So, that moment, for those of you who are facilitators, you've got a million sticky notes and you're grouping them all, and, it's just too much data, and you're thinking, oh crap, what's the time? And, we don't want to be in that position. We want to be calm, to be just observing things and sort of steering and guiding things. So that's where the rounds come in. You really can leverage the power of the team, not, Mr. Mrs. Megastar facilitator. So we've really tried to do it in such a way that the day runs itself, and definitely recommend that for everything you're designing. It just flows better.
And we're rubbish facilitators.
Well, plus, yeah, that's right, we'll be in trouble if you needed to be a rockstar. So on the journey, just wrapping up, there was quite a few activities that we considered, obviously, but didn't make the final day. But it's not a one-time thing. So things like team social events, just having lunch together, that's a powerful thing. Definition of ready, definition of done, they can be done as you go through. So there's a number of different things that just lend themselves to that team journey. If you're going to do more reading around this, that was the best book I've come across, which is kind of a classic that Dinah Larson Liftoff. So she really goes into a lot more depth than I've been able to cover here. We're not using those, to my knowledge, maybe using some of those exercises, but it's more the why, I guess. You're sort of taken to the why. So a great book. And that really is us. So closing off, speak from the heart. I'll speak from the heart a little bit. I'm old enough to remember the New Zealand telethons. I'm from, someone would come in, I'm from Hara, and we've raised such and such with the Children's Hospital, and we challenged Huckaville to do that. So that's ending with that sort of Kiwi challenge. The Haka is sort of part of that. I'm not going to do a Haka, but our challenge to you is we've been pretty open. We're going to give away some booklets. It's all there. So we challenge you to develop your own materials and take this, if it's useful, adapt it, share it, and develop your own materials. And I'd love to come along to one of these where it's kind of like, here's some cool stuff we've developed, and building up that real Kiwi body of knowledge. Oh, yes.
Any questions for Ziggy and Chris?
Not scripted.
Nice.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. So,
Oh, yeah, I was just wondering if you've tried scaling that across to the whole of engineering. So instead of like individuals within a team, individual teams within the engineering or larger company.
We've done it with, I guess, that 2 pizza-sized teams, so it's always been sort of 5 to 9. The day itself wouldn't lend itself to a large group, just time-wise, because say River of Life, 5 minutes each, you multiply that by, but it's a day already. It would be an interesting challenge to adapt content like that for a large group. I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but yeah, we haven't.
We've got an interesting opportunity for that. We've got 2 teams that work very close together, but they're very, very different in different areas. One's doing improvements, one's very much BAU. Those 2 teams have been kind of stepping on each other's toes. So we're doing team lift-offs for them as individual teams, then we're probably going to get them together to say, right guys, where are the similarities, where are the differences? Again, the roles and responsibilities, we can spin it up to not your roles and responsibilities, but for the actual work that you do, to try and make clarity about that, because they are kind of bumping heads a little bit. So So yeah, I mean, you possibly could do that, but I reckon that's another.
Yeah, that's a challenge, you know, it's customising that program for what works. Yeah.
Would you encourage any sponsor or executive engagement in the process?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think that's a given. Yeah, the more support, the better, really. You can never have too much exec support. I suppose it's like ice cream, you just want it, really.
They have to buy the snacks.
Yeah, that's right.
Again, with that product
yeah.
thing, you know, you try and get as high up as you can to get that big overview and things like that. We've got an initiative at Fraedom where we're trying to make more of our own product rather than a partner's solution. So we've got an exciting project we're doing with that, and there's a big long timeline, a big audacious plan for that. So again, for those teams that we're spinning up with that, that's very much going to be, you know, one thing of the past. This is the new thing that we're heading towards. But yeah, the higher up you go, the better. Definitely.
And the exec are a team like any other team, so this is really sort of team agnostic in a way. Haven't run it for the exec yet, but it's sort of floating around there. So yeah, I mean, really any team, yeah, just what needs to work together to get an outcome. Yeah.
What triggers the reset for you? So some of the challenges I've seen is we have done this quite a few times. It's all good for the first 2-3 months, and then management changes the team members. And suddenly you have new team members who are not used to it or don't agree to it. So how often do you
how often?
what triggers a reset?
Yeah,
Liftoff
it's a
is
good question,
as a
yeah.
different, you know,
Yeah, we've had teams that we've had somewhere we've decomposed like a big team down to 2 teams, so we ran it then. We've had others where we've had an established team and there's been like a large amount of developers have joined or new testers. So might have already done this, but we revisited in a session and a retrospective just to check in with everyone. Because everyone knows then what the exercise is going to be like, so it's you know, people can then have a look at the canvas and check in on it. But yeah, I mean, again, we try and do it with any new team, and we've had so many people join Fraedom lately that we do quite a lot of these Liftoffs. But again, we started doing them with established teams as well, and that really surprised us, because you think, these guys have been working together 2 or 3 years. They should be at that Norman stage, they should be coming along. We do the roles and responsibilities, and you know, the fur flies. You know what I mean? And then you go, right, maybe that's why they've not been performing as well as they should, because they can't agree on what each other does for a job. But yeah, we've done them kind of lots of different ways, really.
So what you shown today is almost for a day that you do this whole event. But how much is the duration of the process? I can't imagine you just do it one day and just leave them on their own. So would you be doing it over a period of say 6 months, a year?
Yeah, I mean, I guess at Fraedom we're kind of lucky because we've got 14 Kaizen coaches, so there's enough there to have a Kaizen coach, 1, 2, 3, sort of 4 teams max. So you're always getting that ongoing guidance, and really the Kaizen coach, well, anyone can do it, but the Kaizen coach would sort of facilitate, hey, I think we could do such and such. So you are getting that thread. I remember one team we did just quite recently, we were struggling with autonomy. They just weren't getting enough autonomy. So we did a special sort of autonomy focused retro. You know, if you wanted the whole, do you really want that? You know, with great power comes great pain in the arse sort of thing. You know, so you want all that? You want to run the whole, you know, cloud environment, and we just had that discussion. And so focused meetings for a particular outcome are powerful as well. This is a more broad brushstroke kick-off, really. Yeah, Liftoff.
We are very lucky at Fraedom in the fact that we have dedicated Scrum Masters that work directly with teams. I know a lot of people out in the industry now have got like Agile coaches, and the teams kind of look after themselves. We are extremely lucky at Fraedom that we have dedicated Scrum Masters working directly with the team. And so there's that continual coaching and working with teams and finessing of things. So, you know, yeah, I suppose that's the question. Yeah, we're constantly working.
And there is no timeline, right? Like as a coach,
Yeah.
every team is a little bit different.
That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's ongoing.
Yeah.
You can't just do it once and that's it.
No.
No.
Very true.
Otherwise, someone would be very, very wealthy.
Yes.
Like that's a turnkey thing. Any other questions?
I'm curious, have you done anything around measuring the impact of your Liftoff program?
I'm glad you asked that. Because that gives me an opportunity to go on a little bit of a rant, actually.
No, wait a minute.
Thank you.
Not too much. I thought that would come up. I mean, my perspective, we work in a very complex industry in a very collaborative way. So trying to draw a cause and effect is very difficult, and it's actually quite difficult in a performance review. Simon here, my HR person, because how do you know that it's been you that's actually caused it? So, you know, we could show you a graph that says, okay, here's the velocity, and here's what the velocity did when, you know, and does velocity measure value aside? Would it have been the team liftoffs? Maybe we've got a new CEO. Maybe the CEO did some stuff that caused the graph to do like that. Maybe we just paid more to hire more experienced developers, so it wasn't the agile stuff at all. We just got better coders who coded faster. You know, there would be no way to me of knowing what made the graph do like that. So we don't have any. Let's get mixed up. We don't have any quantitative evidence, and to be honest, we're not trying to collect any. But anecdotally, and I mean I am biased, but anecdotally this has made a big difference. You can just see the teams, and then this is just part of their journey. So anecdotally, yes, and we're continuing to invest in it. There's demand, which is the other side of the equation. You know, teams are asking for it, so there's obviously something there. But that data would be something that I'd be a little bit sceptical about getting, I suppose.
So me and Chris have got very contrasting styles, but he's forgotten that we did the team health check.
Yes, true.
Metric. So what we've developed a team health check. So what we do is we go through a team, and we've got this is another thing that we do. We've got a whole series of values and parts of agility that we measure, and we get the teams to do a barometer, kind of like, how are you feeling? Is it green? Is it amber? Is it a red? And people come back and they're very honest, and we facilitate those meetings. We then come back 3 months later, so it could well have been after a team liftoff, or it could have been after, you know, some coaching work. We run it again and see where the changes happen. Now, after the first time, we look at it and get the teams to agree about what area of this do we want to work on? Is it communication, autonomy, is it, you know, technical abilities, things like that, and we concentrate on trying to improve that from a red to a green. Normally what we find is that it actually knocks up 2 or 3 things, because we're concentrating on, say, communication. Lots of other things start improving. That's an initiative we've just started, because we're doing it again shortly with London. So yeah, we can look at general things like, are we having a positive effect with the teams we're working with? But I'll take Chris's point, we haven't got like a metric for, you know, how good our teams are, but we take a temperature, I suppose, how well the teams are behaving.
That's it.
That's culture. Yeah.
I have a quick question, sort of online. So we have our retros, and it seems like we always talk about the same things in communications to improve. Why don't you write this in your group? Did you know this? Oh, no, I've written this in your group. So like it's the same thing over and over again. How do you avoid having these workshops and then just ending up coming to the same conclusions, but none of the behaviors actually addressed?
Where are you going to leave from? I take your point. We've all had those kind of Groundhog Day retrospectives, you know. Again, we're lucky at Fraedom that we're Kaizen coaches, we're not just Scrum Masters. And one of the things that we look at is kind of organisational change. So if there's bottlenecks and things like that the teams are experiencing, we get together as a practice and try and fundamentally change what that bottleneck is and things like that. Again, with our retrospectives, we do facilitate them quite carefully. We do take points, and what we do is normally in the Scrum teams, we'll put one of those retrospective items as a piece of work to work on through the sprint as well. So we get the teams actively working on what's a problem for them. At the end of the day, we aren't like Superman trying to fix all their problems for them. What we are trying to do is empower the teams to fix their own problems. We can have a chat afterwards if you've got specific issues.
That's a brilliant question. I know exactly what you mean. Can be organisational constraints that you just, you know, it's just at that layer above, and there's really, honestly, nothing the team can do because they keep butting again on that organisational constraint. So for me personally, I'll sort of take that off the agenda because there's no point just talking about the same thing over and over. So don't even talk about it. While trying to do the best you can at that organisation layer, and we try to work at that layer. I I guess we just need more power really as agile coaches. What do you have to say? Do this way.
Well, Chris and Ziggy are gonna be here, so they'll answer your questions, and they do have some books, but we are gonna put the PDF on our Slack channel. We can't email files through the Meetup app, okay? So if you want the PDF, it'll be on our Slack channel, and I'm gonna get to that in a second. So, thank you again, that was awesome. So, we'll have you back for the team health check. Okay, some upcoming events. February, we actually have 2 events. February 19th, Doug Marshock is going to be coming to talk to us about motivational rules of thumb for coaching engaged teams. He's a consultant from Christchurch. We're lucky enough that he'll be in Auckland that week. That's going to be at University of Auckland Lecture Theatre. The details will be in the meetup. And we also have another meetup on the following Wednesday. Jenny Singh from Auckland Council is going to be talking to us about innovation ideas and design thinking principles and agile practices. So that will be here at the Grid. Oh, hi! Did I pronounce your name? Oh, so nice to meet you. Awesome. You know, we just get speakers, we just pick them up off the street. If you want to be a speaker, let me know. Just introduce yourself at a meeting, it's fine. And hopefully I'll have a slide ready for you. But no, the meetup announcements go out about 2 weeks beforehand, so just be sure to be checking that. And then we also post it on our LinkedIn, our Facebook, all the things. And, Basis of Breakfast is back, so thanks to Fraedom. We're going to be starting up Basis of Breakfast again in February, and I believe it's the 27th.
I should know this, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll make sure it's on the calendar and we'll send you an invite. So, but Basics of Breakfast is, if there's a vetting process a little bit, it's not challenging. I see a lot of you in here who were in the workshops last year, so thank you for coming. But we really are targeting the emerging Scrum Masters and people who are new to the practice, right? So not the coaches, not the developers, things like that, unless they want to get into that Scrum Master space. So that's what that's all about. And you can get involved. This is our community. We would love for you to get involved. So we have the Meetup, the Facebook, love Facebook, nice, LinkedIn, the Slack, and YouTube. So we will be posting this video on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. And I think we can get the slides as well, yes?
Probably just the booklet because the slides would not really.
No worries, so just the booklet.
But the booklet's pretty much about it all.
Yeah, so we'll make sure to put that so you have all the information. And we look forward to seeing you next month. So thank you all for
Cool.
coming.
So we do have some booklets here.
Yeah, grab one.
Grab one. More than welcome.
Yeah, thank you guys.